Hello, everyone, and welcome to our ChatSRHR session all about letting youth lead and strengthening youth movements for change. We're really pleased to have here two at the moment, but soon to be three youth led organizations who will be talking all about their work on improving sexual and reproductive health and rights for young people in their contexts. So, without further ado, I will hand it over to our speakers who are going to start by introducing themselves, their organizations, and how they contribute to the youth movements for SRHR in their countries.
Shall I start? Hi everyone, my name is Lilin Nashmel. You can call me Lily. I'm from Ethiopia. I'm an Ethiopian young woman. Um, I'm a medical doctor by profession, but have found my passion in SRHR. I have master's degree in public health, also master of arts in project management. Um, so before joining the SRHR world, I have worked as a physician, but my passion was always about youth engagement and building movements in SRHR for adolescent and young people, especially in Ethiopia. So where I come from is a religious and a very restrictive area where talking about sex is actually being talking about sex, teaching young people about their rights is actually believed to be a taboo. So when we teach young people how to protect themselves, how to have a healthy and enjoyable sex, people actually think we're promoting sex for younger children. So we advocate for adolescent and youth SRHR information and education for especially in schools. So where I work is called TAYA. It's formerly called Talent Youth Association. It's a youth-led organization. We're actually celebrating our 20th year this year. So we've been working on various SRHR issues in the past. But I think we have expertise in youth, meaningful and inclusive youth engagement. So young people are the core of our organization. I mean, all the structures, the governing structure, all staffs are actually young people. The people that you see are also, young people. Taya is always youth. So I believe we're very proud, honestly, to bring the topic of meaningful and inclusive youth participation in, especially in SRHR in Ethiopia, because the concept of youth engagement was just tokenism before that. So we introduced the topic. We're very happy about that because of our continued advocacy. The Ministry of Health has developed its own meaningful and inclusive youth engagement guideline, and because of that now the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs, which is responsible for youth engagement, is also adopting that. And we also have initiated the one and only, the biggest adolescent and youth health forum in the country. It's this year, it's happening for the first time. So we are really contributing to the youth engagement, especially in its SRHR decision making, and also young people having voice in the decision make. Before, to be honest, before Taya, young people didn't really have a voice in that. So this is about me. I believe I've taken a lot of space. I'll hand over to my friend. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and my name is Cecilia Shirima. I'm from Tanzania. I work with Young and Alive Initiative as a Chief Executive Officer. Young and Alive Initiative is a youth led organization and feminist in ideology. And where we come from is myself, I'm a clinician with background, but currently I'm a gender expert with a degree of gender development. And on the past, when we were in the college, as doctors, going into the clinic every time, going into the women ward, and finding younger girls who went through unsafe abortion, it was very devastating to us as doctors. And we didn't see that as a treatment issue, we see that as a community issue. And we were like, if we want to solve this, we're not going to solve it here in the hospital. We need to go into the community. And that's where the passion comes from us. And the group of almost 30 young people, which we get comprehensive sexuality education as doctors. We went to the community, it's called Mtwara, and we start going into the schools, into the colleges, and trying to know what's the problem, starting talking with the community, starting talking with the kids, and finding the solution and work with community in Mtwara. In the starting, it was hard, but as doctors, later we were very trusted by the community. And as we speak, we found the club called the Sexual Health Club. And as Young and Alive Initiative, as we speak, we're still mentoring the club. Like every year, more than 50 young doctors are graduating, which have like the knowledge to work with the community. At the same time, they know very well how to work in the hospital, working with young people. And currently, Young and Alive Initiative, after we graduated as former founders, we come into the community and say, hey, are we going to still be in the as doctors, or do we still have to work in the community? It has been a passion. So as young people with the passion within ourselves, working in the community, we continue with the work. Keep saying that this passion is not going away, because at the moment that we were founding Young and Alive Initiative, there was no single organization founded by young people that was working on SRHR. Even during the finding of the certification and the procedures to form the organization, we were like, are you sure you're going to work on this topic? As you all know, SRHR is not the topic that everyone come with it. And we're like, yes, this is where our passion is. And we were very lucky finding someone who was there in the Ministry of Health at the moment, supported us to make it the documented work, having the certification, and start working in the community. And Young and Alive Initiative is currently working closely with young people from Tanzania, mobilizing young people to work on SRHR, but to become advocates. We are working on SPCC, we are working on capacity development to young people who want to become the champions. We also work on advocacy, because we know that as a youth-led organization, we cannot do it ourselves. So we work in the groups, we work with other organizations. So I think that's all about us for now. Thank you.
Thank you both. I think what I would love to hear from, and I think what kind of our audience would really benefit from hearing from, is both of you have been really instrumental as organizations in kind of overcoming challenges from either people gatekeeping spaces that they traditionally are trying to keep young people out of, or tokenism. I think we've all, as young people, we've all been party to that as well. So would you both be able to talk around how you've broken those barriers, how your seat at the table is now not just because you are a young person? If you could have a discussion around that, that would be really helpful.
Uh,
To myself, I call it from the grassroots to the national, and from the national, here we add the global. So from the grassroots to the national, in Tanzania, Young and Alive Initiative, we go through a lot, because when you introduce yourself in front of people, like you're a youth-led organization, people do, they're young people. They just, they're here, they have a lot of things, they like that. And sometimes if you are invited into the table, it's because you are here to talk about other young people on the panel. When the panel is over, you are gone, they don't remember you, and they don't value your work to that level. Yes, they will like call you onto the table when they need you, when they want their work to be seen, like we are working along with young people. But we have been there trying to say, if you are not going to give us the chair, we are going to bring our own chairs in the room. And we do that by making sure that every young people we work with, we remind them on how to find the space in the decision making table. We have been working with different groups in the community. Like we have champions from grassroots, the young girls, and the young mothers. We train them on advocacy, we train them on SRHR, and we also train them on gender, to understand the gender relation in the society. But through all this, they advocate for themselves to be in the decision level, where they work with the health committees from the village to the districts. And we're like, we are just here to help you to know this is your work. You know what's the problem. They didn't say that, oh, we are going to be here trying to advocate for this and that. They advocate for themselves to be on the decision table. And now they are within those health committees. And every decision that's regarding young people, they are there to represent the voices from their communities. And that's how Young and Alive Initiative have been doing. Currently, we are sitting in the technical working group of Tanzanian Ministry of Health, where we bring on what is happening from the young people, like their priorities, the needs, as we keep working with young people. So we find ourselves there. We bring the chair. We were like, we are here because we have been heard about the technical working group all this time, and it has like INGO, it has like all these other big organizations. And when we felt enough, we were there into the table. And every time when they call for the reports, we are the first. Like always, Innocent and I will be like, hey, there is this, they are looking for this information, and we are working on with young people. So we have to be proactive, because at the end of the day, they will say, we give these young people the position here. What are they doing? So if as young as youth-led organization, you get the chance to be in the table, you have to show them that we are not young only, but we have technicalities that you need here. So we bring our expertise on how to work with young people. We bring our expertise as SRHR. We bring our expertise as gender expertise as well, because we are not just young people by just this. We are young people with expertise. That's what we bring on the table. So when you bring your expertise on the table, they respect you. They know that, oh, they're just not just young people to say blah blah, but they bring their expertise. So they respect your expertise. So it's very important when we are in all these decision making tables, we show our expertise. It's real hard as we are trying to shift power, because yes, sometimes they will find you as expertise, they will use you, they will not pay you well, but we have to make voices. We have to say no, we are here bringing the expertise. You have to understand what we are bringing. Yes, you might have, but you need this, so you have to value me the same way you will value an INGO, the same way you will value a big organization.
Thank you very much. So I will try to give a little bit of a context from Ethiopia. So my for Ethiopia, having a boy is, it's a country where having a boy is actually being celebrated than having a girl, to be honest. So growing up in this gender restricted society as well, where young people are actually believed to be notorious and only thinking about occupying spaces, not being responsible. I mean, it has been a challenge for decades. But for our organization, for Taya, as a youth led organization, what we did initially is we need to be exemplary ourselves. So we started with ourselves. So it's a youth led organization. So all the structure is occupied by youth. So what we did was we brought the concept of meaningful youth engagement with a flower of participation. So we adopted it from youth for sexual choice for youth and sexuality, our good colleagues. We were actually co-developers there. So that flower actually represents how a youth engagement should be meaningful and inclusive. So we developed a structure which we call ECHO. It actually stands for Ethiopian Youth Council for Higher Opportunities. These are a group of young people that actually serves as youth councils for our organization, but have more responsibilities than being just a council. They're actually involved in the decision making. We give them information they need. We actually build their capacities, but at the same time, we also give them responsibility and also decision making power. So they're also engaged in the board of the organization. So we took that experience and started advocating that to our partners, to our government, to everyone. So with the continued advocacy, which actually took more than 3 years, to be honest, Ministry of Health adopted that concept of the flower of participation and developed its own youth engagement guideline, which you'll find our name as main contributor, to be honest. Now, last year in 2022, we were successful enough to establish a youth council for the Ministry of Health. So these youth councils actually serve as councils, but to the ministry in regard to adolescent and youth health, but also they're decision makers. So this is a big step for us. So youth have a space, youth have a voice in the decision of the Ministry of Health. So this is actually being reciprocated at the moment to the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs. So hopefully this will be reciprocated to other ministries as well. Tokenism is still there, to be honest. I've been to many spaces everywhere, being the only young person in the room, being talk, the youth agendas being discussed in the room. But I've been there, not only in the government space, but in the donor space, in the United Nations space. But it's a progress. So we've introduced the concept, we've initiated the movement. So I guess being exemplary ourselves is something that we need to start with. So we inform the youth, we capacitate them, we give them the space, the voice, and the responsibility. And the youth will take it to the next level. The advocacy will reach to the minister level, to be honest. So this is what we have been doing. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to squeeze another question in before Clementine joins us. But this has been so helpful to hear. But I think from my side, and I think what a lot of youth organisations would be interested in is the kind of first step. So before we take our seats to the table, before we're taken seriously, how are you kind of meaningfully building the capacity of young people to be able to not just engage in your organisations but to lead them?
Just before we continue on that question, I just want to introduce Clémentine Tarnagda from the organization Organisation pour les nouvelles initiatives en développement et pour la santé. And she is going to speak a bit about her work as well, and then we'll jump right back into the conversation. So, donc, if you could share the microphone. Donc, si vous voulez vous présenter et puis expliquer un peu ce que ONIDS fait et comment vous contribuez au mouvement pour la jeunesse dans votre pays. Et si vous parlez juste un peu doucement, comme ça je peux traduire.
D'accord. Ok, bonjour tout le monde et encore désolé pour le retard, on a tourné pour se retrouver. Donc, je suis Clémentine Tarnarda, épouse Kosuo. Je suis la directrice exécutive de l'Organisation pour de nouvelles initiatives en développement et santé.
So she says sorry for being late, but her name is Clementine Tagnada and she's the executive director of ONIDS in Burkina Faso.
Donc, il faut noter que ONIS est une structure de promotion et de protection des droits humains. Et nous sommes basés au Burkina Faso. On intervient dans deux régions en contexte de crise humanitaire et une région qui n'est pas encore déclarée en contexte de crise.
So ONIDS is a human rights organization based in Burkina Faso, and they work specifically in two sort of regions. One which is in classified as sort of a region of humanitarian crisis, and the other one which is not yet a humanitarian crisis sort of region.
Ok. Donc, pour revenir au travail que l'on fait pour pouvoir soutenir le mouvement des jeunes, il faut dire que d'abord, dans le cadre de la promotion et de la protection des droits en santé sexuelle, nous avons travaillé à mobiliser au niveau communautaire. Donc, nous avons mobilisé les agents de santé à base communautaire qui sont du ministère de la Santé. Nous avons mobilisé des activistes qui sont des jeunes, des étudiants. Nous avons aussi mobilisé les agents de santé que nous avons formés d'abord sur ces droits sexuels et reproductifs des adolescents et jeunes, surtout en contexte de crise humanitaire.
So in terms of the movement for youth that they are working on, they focus particularly on sexual and reproductive health and rights. And they do this by engaging local community health workers, young activists, as well as other sort of more formal healthcare workers working in structures. And this is particularly around sexual and reproductive health and rights in humanitarian crisis contexts.
Ok, aussi, il faut ajouter que nous avons travaillé à mettre en place des clubs communautaires de jeunes où les jeunes arrivent à se retrouver pour pouvoir s'exprimer parce qu'on a remarqué qu'entre jeunes, le message passe vraiment très bien parce que les jeunes ont souvent peur de s'exprimer lorsque vous avez des adultes avec eux. Donc, nous avons mis en place des clubs communautaires qui permettent de discuter sur les questions des violences basées sur les genres, les questions d'accès ou de non-accès aux jeunes aux services de santé sexuelle et reproductive et aussi les questions d'accès aux jeunes aux services d'interruption sécurisée de la grossesse.
So one other thing that they do is community youth clubs and community youth spaces. And this is because youth are much more likely to talk amongst each other and to sort of talk about their needs and wants without adults in the room. And this is particularly important around topics such as gender-based violence, accessing health services, and or not accessing health services, and also abortion rights in their contexts.
Il faut aussi dire qu'il y a la collecte des données qu'on fait sur les évidences à travers les formations sanitaires, les agents de santé et aussi les jeunes même qui sont dans la communauté. Nous collectons les données, nous collectons les témoignages et les récits de vie pour pouvoir aller faire le plaidoyer au niveau des décideurs, pour pouvoir aller présenter aux parents par rapport aux besoins des jeunes de pouvoir être pris en compte dans tout ce qui concerne les cas de décision, dans tout ce qui concerne la considération voilà, de leurs droits sexuels. Donc, il y a cette donnée que nous collectons pour pouvoir servir, parce qu'on s'est rendu compte au Burkina Faso que les gens sont vraiment réceptifs à tout ce qui est donné. Quand on vient avec les évidences, des témoignages, ils adhèrent vraiment et ils permettent de prendre en compte les aspects des jeunes. Voici ce que je peux dire pour le moment.
Another aspect of their work is about evidence collecting, and so that is both sort of formal healthcare evidences using their relationships with community health leaders, as well as collecting sort of stories and true life experiences of young people. And because evidence collection and data collection is so well respected in the Burkina Faso context, decision makers are much more receptive to listening and engaging if they have evidence and data to work from. So that is another aspect of the work that they do. Okay. Okay. So, yeah.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for being here, Clementine. Sorry, I can't speak French, so Katie will have to translate my question. But the question I asked just before you got here was around the first steps that we need to take. So everyone has mentioned, taking seats at the table and how we do that and how we're taken seriously. But how are you, as youth-led organizations, helping to build the capacity of young people to not only engage in your organizations but to lead them as well?
Qu'est-ce que vous faites en tant que jeune pour engager les autres jeunes de pousser leur capacité, to build their capacity? Yeah. Comment vous les capacités des autres jeunes?
Young and Alive initiative through our projects and Amplify Change, the YAI Fellow. We build capacity of young people in SRHR 3 tracks of service delivery, social entrepreneurship, and smart advocacy. Why did we choose the 3 areas? Is on the service delivery, young people understand what does SRHR means to them, but also they come up with problems and how to solve it from their community. On the social entrepreneurship, we know not every solution needs to be advocated, but other problems need concrete solutions. So on the social entrepreneurship, they learn how to convert the problems into the solutions, but using their own way of innovation. So they get the chance to learn on how they can work on their own initiatives, how they can open their own companies, how to lead and form their own initiatives. We understand that as young people, we don't remain young forever. So in one day or another, we are going to leave the seats for other young people to come and take over. So we wish to have like more as initiative as needed to keep solving the SRHR issue into our communities. And this will not only go into the one direction of non-profits, we also, for the aim of economic improvement to our young people, they also need to find the way to make money out of it, because every day we are looking for sustainability, right? So we always talk with them when they say it's real hard to get funding. How can we do it better? How can we fundraise more? How can we make the initiatives that are going to make money out of themselves? So it's something that we have been working with young people, and they are doing great work in Tanzania. Like currently, one of our group is working on the nutrition, making the own initiative on how to make the flour for the children's, and it's something that come out of the work. But also they are working on also the way to make the condoms and all the SRHR products available to other young people within their community, like making the available their cell phones so that people in their community, they call and they use the motorbikes and boda bodas to go to them. So most of them, they were like thinking on the way of making money out of the initiative, but also they are solving the problems, because finding the condom in the night is not easy in the community, as well as finding the good nutrition for the children. Sometimes it's real hard. So the way that we work with young people, like from the YAI fellow, is like keep give them the network that is available. It's not like you're working with the group of young people and then you left them because you are a young person. We keep capacitate them, giving them the opportunity that is available. If anyone is looking for the young people, we're like, oh, we have this group. They have the knowledge in this and this and this area, and most of them currently they are working with other organizations within the community. The other things that we were doing is keep working with the groups, different groups that we are working with other projects. We don't let them away. We keep mentoring them in every new thing that is coming up, because we understand it's not only about SRHR. Sometimes the priority of adolescent and young people is so diverse. They sometimes they're like, yeah, we need this learning, but can you talk with us about economic freedom? We need learning of entrepreneurship and all of that. So sometimes we link them and make sure that they get more learning than SRHR. So it's the way of making them engage, keep engaged with us, but also to make them being the real champion that they want to be for their community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we believe in, be the change you want to see. So whenever we talk about adolescent and youth SRHR programs or anything relevant to adolescent and youth, we make sure that they are at the forefront of that conversation. So whenever we bring young people to the table, to the organization or anywhere, the first thing that we do is they need to have the information on what they're engaging in. They need to know what they are doing. They need to know where they are. So we give them the information. We build their capacity, especially trainings and others. But then after that capacity building process, then comes the opportunities and the responsibilities together. So in Taya, wherever we go, we take young people with us. For example, myself and my colleague came to this organization. We're two people, but we also brought two other young people. We make sure that adult youth partnership is in place. So adults one, young people the other. So we always make sure that young people are engaged in the process of decision making. So we gave them those opportunities to talk with the decision makers, be it with the parliamentaries, be it with the policy makers in the Ministry of Health. We make sure that young people are there, but they are well informed and well, capacitated. So there's the information, then there's the capacity building, then there's the opportunity, and then finally, the decision making process. So we follow these steps, but we take this from our organization, we introduce it to other partner organization, because we can't bring change alone, so we need other partner organization as well. Then we take it to the the decision makers. The most important thing, I guess, for us is also, like my friend mentioned, is about the mentorship program. So because our youth councils are really the decision makers in the organization, you know as she said, we also age. Young people go through that process of aging. Obviously they move to the other. I've moved to the adultship. I just turned 30, so like, um so the older ones get to mentor the new ones, the young ones, the adolescent and the young people. So that mentorship continues, but we don't just promote youth led engagements as well, but we also promote adult youth partnership, because it's very important. Sometimes adults are somehow experts in some topics, not in the youth, but they have that technical capacity which they can support to the young people. But after you capacitate the young people, it's always important to give them the opportunity to exercise those, whatever they've learned from whatever they want to advocate for. So we give them that opportunity, that space, that floor, so that they can engage in those spaces, and they can raise their voices. I guess this is what I have to say. Thank you.
Ok, merci. J'ai envie de dire que nous avons pratiquement les mêmes approches au Burkina Faso que les approches de mes deux autres sœurs. D'abord, ONIDS même, notre structure, c'est une école d'apprentissage d'abord. Donc, nous engageons les jeunes avec le programme de mentorat pour pouvoir les permettre d'avoir un certain leadership, pour pouvoir revendiquer déjà leurs droits.
So I just want to say that we have very similar approaches to my two sisters here in Burkina Faso. So we consider ourselves a school of learning. So we also provide mentorship to young people in order to be able to advocate.
Donc, en plus du programme de mentorat que nous avons, qui permettent quand même à des mentors d'accompagner ces jeunes-là pour qu'ils puissent prendre leur leadership, nous avons aussi les cours pour pouvoir renforcer leurs capacités. Nous avons les sessions de formation parce que chaque fois, nous disons, nous ne pouvons pas parler des jeunes sans les jeunes. Voilà, parler des jeunes sans les jeunes, c'est parler contre les jeunes. Donc, pour eux, nous voulons que les jeunes soient toujours autour de la table. Et il ne faut pas être à la table pour être à la table. Il faut pouvoir contribuer lorsqu'on est à la table des décisions. Et pour cela, nous leur donnons les instruments nécessaires à travers les formations, le renforcement des capacités, les formations pour qu'ils puissent vraiment parler de leurs droits lorsqu'ils sont au niveau de la table et contribuer pour leur prise en compte. Je te laisse traduire.
Yeah, let's try to summarize. So, as well as mentorship, we also provide trainings. And it's particularly important, so for our mentors to be able to support young people, but also provide training, because we like to say, you can't speak about youth without youth. And you can't sit at a table just to sit at a table. So we need to capacitate the young people, the young activists, so that they know how to speak about their rights and they know how to speak about what they need to help further that.
Et en plus de cela aussi, au niveau des autorités, lorsqu'il y a un programme qui est mis en place, que ce soit au niveau gouvernemental, les politiques que nous travaillons à élaborer, nous assurons la présence des jeunes vraiment de qualité qui peuvent travailler à influencer ces politiques-là pour la prise en compte de leurs besoins dans toutes ces politiques et surtout les questions de renforcement des capacités. Il y a aussi les renforcements de capacités que nous faisons à travers l'utilisation des réseaux sociaux. Parce que nous savons aujourd'hui, pour pouvoir impacter aussi bien les autres jeunes, impacter les décideurs, nous devons pouvoir inonder l'ensemble des réseaux sociaux pour pouvoir impacter. Donc, nous les formons aussi sur comment utiliser la bonne utilisation. Parce que souvent, les jeunes utilisent les réseaux sociaux, pas forcément pour de bons fins, mais nous les formons pour qu'ils puissent utiliser ces réseaux sociaux-là dans le cadre de pouvoir s'exprimer, pouvoir faire passer leur message, de pouvoir avoir la prise en compte de leur.
So we also make sure to include young people whenever we talk about national level policies, to make sure that their voices and needs are heard. And another thing that we do is to support them on communications, especially on social media, because this is a really strong way for young people to be able to communicate their messages and make sure that they're using social media for good, because we know that young people don't necessarily always use social media for good, but training them on how to use social media to pass the message along and to create lots of noise around the issue.
Voilà. En plus des sessions de renforcement des capacités, il faut dire que nous avons des sessions où nous déclarons souvent des jeunes en champions en fonction des renforcements qu'ils ont reçus et en fonction de leur engagement qu'ils ont sur les questions, pour pouvoir inviter les autres jeunes à pouvoir suivre aussi ce pas et à pouvoir aussi s'engager pour les questions. Donc, nous avons des jeunes champions, activistes, leaders qui ont pour mandat aussi de pouvoir quand même renforcer la capacité d'autres jeunes pour pouvoir prendre la relève dans l'avenir.
So another tool is the youth champions, so young people who have been trained as leaders who can then go on to engage other young people in that way to help build the movement.
C'est bon pour nous.
Thank you so much. These are really kind of comprehensive and rich answers. I think I'm just going to ask, I have one more question before I pass over to give the mic to anyone else. But I think what I would like to know, speaking from Amplify Change, but what can we be doing better as donors to support youth-led organizations and youth-led movements? So in terms of us as Amplify, but also anyone else who's investing in young people, what can we do better? And please be brutally honest with us.
En tant que bailleur de fonds, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire de mieux pour soutenir les organisations dirigées par les jeunes?
As donors. Yeah. I'll start by saying that young people needs are diverse. And one of the things that are being left out is mostly forgetting the inclusivity of young people, and most of the time the needs to young people are like everybody's including within, while young people, adolescent and young people with disability, sexual and gender minority young people are not included much, and even the projects that are specifically for them are less. So I think there is a need currently to improve on that. Like, if there is at least more investment on that, especially on how they can get better services, on how they can get their needs being approached better, because we are being more into the group of young people and forget that this group are left behind. The other thing is more funding. More funding. Bring money to young people. We have expertise. We know exactly what is needed in the community. We have the movements. We know how to mobilize better. So there is need of more unrestricted funds. The funds have been too much restricted, and every time it's like, do you have this capacity? All of the long due diligence that we found on many donors, and sometimes it's hard. And the good thing we have seen, like for Amplify, you are really learning from young people every day, trying to change things as how young people are keeping providing the information to you, like this is better, this is better. But other donors should maybe learn from your approach and try to make the less uh, fund procedures, bureaucracy around it. And the other thing is how INGO and donors have been engaged with us. Yes, we are there, and currently there has been this fund is that, I don't know if they call it localization of fund, where the fund comes and it says like there should be youth-led organization within. So I think donors should put more eye on that, on how the local organization are being involved, because it's easy to provide fund to INGO and local NGO and say the fund is going well because you are getting the report from the INGO. I think there should be the communication that allow even the local organization, the youth led organization that is working with the INGO to communicate with you, because the issue of the prime thing has been so hard that if you are the partner, your voice is not heard. Like, you don't do the way that they're supposed to do. You don't know even how to communicate with the bigger donor. And most of the time is they report according to their words, they report according to how they want it to report. And sometimes even your need, even if they are not fulfilled, you don't know where to run into, because you are just a partner and the prime is there always. So if there is good localization of fund, it's time there should be a flip. Even youth-led organization, as local as we are, we can be prime and we can lead. But those capacity should be long term, on how we can become the prime, how we can lead those big funds, and how we can showcase our work. Because yeah, they're using the consultants. Uh, we don't have the capacity. We have the capacity, we can be consultants, but more capacity to us on how to navigate through the big funding, it's very important. And the other thing is borrowing on our frameworks, borrowing on our good structures, our storytelling. There has been this, yeah, we understand there is indicator reporting and all of these structures and framework that are coming on how we report, but we should also localizing on how young people report. It's not the bad way of reporting. Yes, we can work on advocacy, but does it matter the story of change on how do we get to the advocacy? Because it takes a long way to get the bigger advocacy change, but there is a story behind that. So there should be also a funding through those stories and those hard way through getting the only the one result of advocacy. So I think there is that need, but also to listen to young people more. Donors should listen and not always we are there, we speak, and everything is like, oh yeah. And next time again, so we wish for the donors and funders to listen to young people and respond to our needs.
Thank you very much. I do agree with everything she says. Yeah. I would say simplify the process, to be honest, just like my friend said. You know, there's too much with the process. I mean, for us, we have had experience in, applying for grant, for, proposal writing or anything. We've had that experience for quite a while. But if you really want to work with youth-led organizations, especially new ones, you have to simplify the process of those applications. It has to be simple, or there should be videos and guides, how to fill those applications. Not only the proposal writing and on the or the granting process, but the reporting, the monitoring, and the evaluation process must also be simplified. you know rather than spending hours, days, compiling reports, it would be really better if I spend more time, working with those young people. So let's focus on the work more than, the grant or the money reporting or what. I know it's a must to follow that process, but you know let's spend more time, with the young people themselves. Let's invest the time, the energy, and the money on the youth themselves, rather than, all the bureaucracy and the process. So I say simplify the process, to be honest. I think it's better to map and reach out to youth-led organizations everywhere. I'm sure. I mean, I've worked with Amplify Change for the past, I think, 3 years now, because we've had projects before. But I mean, those other organizations must be invited to the application process as well. I think small grants are also nice for small youth-led organizations. Small grants, but frequent grants. Especially new youth-led organizations that are just, coming from the ground, would be really supported with those small grants opportunities. $10,000, 20,000, 30,000. I know they're small as a grant, but some work can be done with those small grants. So I suggest that. I think, as my friend just mentioned, use engagement is a must throughout the process. And also, maybe, I mean, when I meant youth engagement, like maybe when there is an application from a consortium, maybe making engaging at least one youth-led organization among 4, 5, or 7, consortium members must be a must. So that you encourage youth engagement through that as well. And also, if you support governments, maybe, forcing those, for I can't say the term force, but push the government to make sure that youth are engaged as well. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Ok, merci. Euh, D'abord, je tiens à remercier vraiment Amplify Change parce que c'est un bailleur qui finance même les structures qui ne sont pas enregistrées légalement et qui, par exemple, pour l'expérience de ONIDS, nous avons eu notre premier financement bailleur avec Amplify Change qui nous a permis quand même de nous renforcer pour pouvoir faire le formidable travail que nous faisons actuellement. Donc, dans le souci d'améliorer euh, l'apport de Amplify à ces structures de jeunes-là, j'allais parler de le réseautage d'abord, parce que vous avez plusieurs structures que vous financez au niveau pays. Voilà, pouvoir faciliter ce réseautage et faciliter le partage d'expériences réussies, surtout en matière de travail avec les jeunes que vous avez eu avec les autres structures. Je te permets de traduire en anglais.
Merci. Just to say that our very first financing as an organization was with Amplify Change, and that we thank Amplify Change for that funding, which allowed us to strengthen and to build up our structures. And one suggestion for Amplify Change would be around networking. We fund lots of organizations in the same country, in the same region, and what would be really helpful is making those connections and networks so that we can learn from each other, especially around youth advocacy and engaging young people.
L'autre chose, j'ai envie de parler du processus de financement. Voilà, le processus de financement, quand vous voulez, parce que quand on dit les structures de jeunes, c'est vraiment les jeunes, c'est les jeunes structures. Mais souvent, par rapport aux appels à projets, il y a beaucoup de processus, il y a beaucoup d'informations dont on a besoin, beaucoup d'expériences qui vont peut-être éliminer certaines structures de jeunes. Donc, il faut vraiment revoir ce processus-là, le simplifier, que ce soit pour les appels à candidature, que ce soit pour les rapports semestriels ou les rapports finaux. Donc, il y a ce processus-là à simplifier. Il y a aussi le fait de pouvoir contribuer à la visibilité de ces structures-là, parce que à travers vos différentes plateformes, c'est vrai que c'est déjà fait, mais c'est toujours renforcer cela. Ça permettra à ces jeunes aussi de pouvoir être vus et connus par d'autres bailleurs qui vous suivent, pouvoir être aussi
In terms of the funding process, we should work towards simplifying it and making it easier and more accessible for youth-led organizations, because through the funding calls, as there is so many processes that have to go through, what it means is that a lot of organizations aren't even able to get through the process to be able to apply for funding. So whether that's the application process, whether that's the reporting process, simplifying those processes down to make it more easily accessible for young people. And then finally, around helping support the visibility of youth-led organizations on our platforms. So we're doing that a bit already. I say we as Amplify Change. Amplify Change is doing that a bit already, but it could be strengthened even more to make sure that those youth-led organizations are sort of profiled and that other donors can see them and see their work. Yes.
L'autre chose, c'est qu'il faut aussi travailler à écouter les jeunes, travailler à les responsabiliser aussi dans le cadre des actions et aussi assurer la continuité des financements. Parce que souvent, il y a des financements qui sont donnés pour réaliser certains projets qui ont quand même montré leurs preuves, des approches qui ont réussi. Mais au moment où les gens commencent à prendre conscience, où les gens commencent à s'intéresser, à ce moment, nous n'avons pas la possibilité de pouvoir continuer ce financement et pouvoir avoir beaucoup plus d'impact. On parle des jeunes, il faut vraiment parler à tout moment pour pouvoir permettre d'atteindre les objectifs que nous recherchons. Donc, c'est le défi de pouvoir assurer la continuité, voilà, des financements, surtout par rapport aux approches réussies.
So then, other than engaging with young people, it's to assure the sustainability and the continuity of funding as well, because oftentimes the projects and funding will be quite time bound and there'll be specific objectives to attain, but just as things are ramping up and getting started, the funding ends. So assuring a more continuity of funding to support ongoing efforts is important as well. Yes. Yeah. Are there any questions from our audience, or any comments, or any observations that we want to include?
Thank you. I was yawning sometimes. This is making me sleepy. Very spongy. Yeah. Thanks for the presentation. I just want to build on the point of the issue of funding for the youth-led organization, and I think last week we had a meeting with the Minister of Health in Tanzania um, on the family planning advocacy packages, you know, and the ways we can work with partners on on improving the work of family planning in Tanzania. And then I think one thing that was coming up as a strong point was the issue of sustainable funding and all moving to financing. So instead of funding, start moving to financing, like finding ways we can ensure sustainability in sexual and reproductive health programs. Because I think for me, it it hurts when we have programs and then we can't go on with the programs because the funding has ended, or you start this kind of community program. It's very good, it's very productive, but again, we don't have funding to keep doing it. So I don't know what to say, but I think it's time now we start also thinking about the sustainability of the funding that we have within the youth led movement, and also thinking of the ways we can do financing. I think that was the language that was much used during the meeting, because every partner was like, we have this funding for 2 years. After it ends, then everything is done. We have this, and you see things moving back as soon as funding are ending. Things start moving back again. So collectively, how can we find the ways to do sustainable funding or financing, like finding like some business models to keep sustaining the work that we are doing within our communities. That's it. Thank you.
I know it's something that I've come across it, and I think is something that we should all know. There is highly increase of anti-rights movements, anti-feminist movements, anti-SRHR movements, and this might lead to the high increase of advocacy because the work that we have been doing is going to go against the work that the ants movements are working towards. Like we have been working so hard to make sure that the CSE work in our countries, but now it's like it's going to be flipped out. We are working so hardly to make sure that the pleasure principles is being adapted with the organizations, but the movements are coming highly against that. We are working towards sexual rights and reproductive rights highly, and I think is now maybe the way of the funders to think how to invest more, because the anti-rights, they are investing more as well, and they are coming with unrestricted funds. Sometimes it's all about videos and something like that, which when it comes to the funders and donors to the real work of rights is vice versa. Like you need a lot of restrictions to get the funds, while the anti-rights are funding in the right way. So if we want our work to be sustainable and our work to keep up, and we work effectively on SRHR, we have also to go parallel on how the anti-rights and all these movements are working, because they are seeing that it's hard for us to get funds, it's hard to get the unrestricted fund, and they're providing the free funds, they're providing the good better way of getting funds. And if we really want the work to be better, we really need to go either parallel or better than them.
I think I have two points to mention here. One is I think when we think about fund sustainability, the most important thing to think about is the sustainability of the work that we do. I mean, beginning from the starting from the initial points of those projects or the works that we do, I think we need to plan how to make those projects sustainable. So when you plan to make those works or those projects sustainable, like handing over the projects to the community, to the young people themselves, I think the young people will own those projects, will own the work you do originally. So the issue of fund might not be an issue later, because the sustainability of the work is at the initial point of that. The other thing is diversifying donors. There's a thing called donor exhaust, I guess. So it's important to reach out to various donors, not to focus on individual donors. So diversifying those donors is very important. Thank you. Great.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. Merci to everyone. Are you one more question? Yeah. Sorry.
One more point when the issue of the anti-rights movement that was mentioned. So I've just learned that when these anti-rights movements are growing, the most vulnerable organizations are local youth-led organizations within our context. So we saw recently in Tanzania the anti-LGBTQI movement that was growing, and organizations working on sexual and reproductive health and rights were the targets. But again, the most vulnerable organizations were the youth-led movements, youth-led organizations that were the most vulnerable. So the government is against them, the anti-rights movement are against them. Um, and the sad thing is, even other community members are also supporting those anti-rights movements. I think it's because of the investment that they're doing for that. And one thing that I learned yesterday was, I mean, to the audience now, to the communities, when we celebrate these anti-rights movement, so for instance the anti-LGBTQI movement, it's it's a political thing. So it's people in power trying to do anything to keep their own power. So when we celebrate it, they are becoming anti-LGBTQI movements. Next time they're gonna come to you. They're gonna be anti this group and that group. So they're doing anything to maintain their own power. So it's very important that we as youth led movements we see that and and we know how to navigate those kinds of movements. And at the end of the day, also safeguarding and the protection of ourselves, I think it's also very important, and the well-being of the youth-led movements and local youth-led organizations. Yeah, so that came up in my mind when you was talking about the anti-rights movement. I wanted to say sorry.
Thank you. Just a very, very important note to end on, I think. So thank you all again so much. Merci. It was really lovely to hear about all of your experiences and what you need as young people and as young people who lead organizations and movements in your countries. So thank you and keep up the good work. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. We're going to stop it.